Hello, Jason.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Thank you for being here for your show, Please Be Quiet. I just wanted to ask you a few questions. And I thought maybe we could start with a description of the show or what you were thinking for the install.
So the show is essentially about instructions for listening and participatory instructions. So I've been working a lot with quiet projects over the last 4 years, and that has included asking people through different means, through an app, through a website, through conversations, to go into their city and find quiet spaces, and essentially asking through public generosity, what people think are quiet spaces, I suppose, for them, whether they're interior spaces, whether they're in city spaces or unusual spaces that I could never possibly think of myself, and because I'm also very much interested in work that slows people down and quietens the world. I wanted to see what kind of public response there would be to doing it. So the work I'm doing here, Raygun, really comes from that 4 years of thinking about quiet, and this is the first and for me very exciting next phase of it, which is around the whole concept of silent type, and I guess what that means in this particular installation is the idea of the instructions being the silent type, quite literally type on pieces of paper that are there for you to engage with, whether that's just purely as writing or whether it's as something you might like to enact within the space. So there's instructions for I suppose you call it deep listening, like really concentrated, long periods of listening, and a lot of it is around being in this space. So it's site-specific, this work, and it really is about engaging with the sounds that come through the windows here from the streets of Margaret Street here in Toowoomba, which have really informed how it shaped this room. And so around me, there's these cards that have, I think there's 40 of them. There were 50 I wrote for this, and 40 of them, they fit. And also, some just didn't work. Like there was a couple, and because of the way that I've engaged this particular circle here, it sort of was about making sure this space was a little bit sort of separate to the edges of this circle. So I mean, this is kind of the beginning of this project, and it's an installation that as many people who can fit in this room could engage with if they're willing to be quiet, and respect that quiet for other people who come and engage with it. Or it's really great for just a one-person experience as well, just to be in this room and to spend time, and also because of being self-conscious, you might not want to necessarily walk paces up and down the room and count each footstep, in front of a bunch of other people. So, but you might, and that's great. There's instructions for lying down and listening and humming, listening through windows. Quite abstract listening instructions that are almost impossible to achieve, but you might dream that they're possible. Yes, and this space here, so this space is, I've been really interested in the collective circle space, which is, used in so many ways within neutralizing, or I guess democratizing group experiences, so everybody becomes equal in the space. So I've used the circle. At this stage, it's a very small circle of 6 chairs, and this is really just, it's a place where to sit with others or by yourself. These are noise cancelling headphones, so once you put them on, they diminish a certain amount of frequencies that come through into this room. and I've got one pair because I thought, again, it's a democratic space, and so you have to negotiate. If you're sitting here with 6 people, who gets to use them at
Maybe
any
they
given
can
time?
share.
Well, that's right. That'd be interesting. They do flip.
Yeah.
Interesting to have one ear blocked and the other not.
I had them on earlier, and it was amazing the things that I heard when I took them off.
Oh yeah.
It was a really nice thing to do.
It differentiates between this room and it's amazing once you do put them on and take them off what you didn't hear before you put them on. Yeah, so that's what I love about them. And there's some other little instructions that are very specific to this box that are around speaking and sitting. So, there's a logic, a strange logic, I suppose, to the way that the narrative of these instructions work. And it's just been so great for me to just be in residence in this space for the last 4 days and just be able to build the space really from, very, very vague ideas of what it might be like. And I mean, there's this big sign outside that says "Please be quiet," and there's cards here that say "Please be quiet."
And at the opening, you'll be standing by the door.
Yes, at the opening, I will be standing at the door, kind of as an anonymous figure, because part of this work for me now, because previously it's been very much about me having to identify with the project and me being Jason, having to talk about it very publicly, and so what I'm interested in now is really stepping back from the work, letting the work just have its own identity. I'm definitely interested in the artists disappearing from their work more and more. I think we've developed this culture of celebrity artists and people who, and I definitely never want to head in that direction. So so Silent Type really is not only, I guess, an overarching name and concept for this work, but it's also the name. There's a figure in the corner which you can't see at the moment, so you have to come to the exhibition. That is a proxy for me when I leave this space, and I call this ungendered silent figure, silent type. So when you come into the room, you can either engage with this figure or you might not want to. It's up to you. So I'll be here in the room. Yeah, I guess veiled, I suppose, is any way to put it, and greeting people silently, averting my gaze, because one thing I'm also trying to experiment with is moving away from just the visual engagement with people and just allowing people to not feel like it's about a visual, but rather just a listening experience. Yeah.
Fantastic. The other thing I was wanting to ask you was, you spoke a little bit earlier today about silence being a way of life, perhaps for you, and I wondered how it related, or if it did, to this idea of spirituality, or...
Yeah, I mean, I guess I consider myself to be a spiritual... I mean, I consider myself to be a naturist, like Björk, who I was so inspired by the way she put that in a documentary of hers once. Like, there's all of these kind of belief systems, of course, that are out there in the world, but to me, the most profound is nature, the thing that we live in. And I'm very lucky at the moment to live in the Adelaide Hills, which is just an incredible, natural environment. And I mean, I've been reading an incredible book at the moment, which is called Silence, written by a Zen Buddhist. And I mean, he describes this idea of, I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially, what would happen if the wind stopped blowing through the trees, or the waterfalls stopped making noise, or the water stopped, then what would the plants hear? What would happen to them? Would they go into shock? That sonic environment would suddenly disappear. And I think, within cities, we're losing sense of that natural environment by the more noise that's created by traffic. And so I guess for me, the spiritual aspect, I suppose, of my desire for silence and quiet comes from really acknowledging that nature and the natural environment is really compromised by the way that we're living and the way that we're building cities. And I believe in goddesses, more than I would ever believe in, this male deity, and I'm very interested in all of that mythology, to do with mythology of goddesses. That doesn't necessarily figure into this work, but you know, there's a lot of writing. I mean, you know, silence is revered in so many religions, and it's a kind of way to meditate, and it's a kind of way to engage with oneself and with the world.
It's maybe something we've lost a little.
Yeah, and that's what drives me essentially. Is, you know, I mean, I'm very interested in that. You know, that's probably the strongest aspect of religions that do revere silence. But you know, it's about just finding ways in which, you know, this kind of, you know, this kind of work can become something else. It's about the personal experience of silence and quiet. So, you know, and I don't really, I should, but I don't really practice meditation. I haven't found a way for it to really work for me, although I'm definitely interested in developing more around guided meditations and, you know, developing. But this is, you know, in a way, the instructions for listening are kind of meditations. They're small meditations, each one.
Making you slow down and think about something.
Yeah, and so I guess I'm got a mini sort of cathedral of sorts, quiet cathedral building. This is the idea that, you know, you can come and visit here and actually just purely experience quiet. And actually there's a chapel just near where I'm staying here in Toowoomba that has it says come in and experience quiet, basically. You know, if you want silent experiences, something to that effect. And you know, yeah.
And have you had any thoughts about where to from now after? Yeah.
Yes, so this work continues through to the end of the year at this point in time. I mean, I never really see ends to projects like this. I mean, very much a process-driven artist. So, but I am developing this work into a larger scale installation with sound.